me tell the story for our audience. Steve was invited to the Mad Dog Radio party months ago.
Oh, Lord.
And he said, all right, I'll show up. You know, they got a lot of the peons there. You know, Steve Torrey, Eric Spitz, a lot of the producers.
They are
Eddie
not
Erickson.
peons.
Well, you know what I mean. The sort of the foundation of the
These
show.
are my brothers, Steve Torrey and I go back years.
I know you do. You like him. I got a lot of the PR people and everything else. And Steve said, I'll be there. And then all of a sudden, he got picked up by the commissioner, driven to a private dinner with the commissioner, and driven back to his, he's not staying at the Motel 6, I promise. Or the New Yorker Hotel. He's at a nice spot. And I didn't show up on me.
You're such a troublemaker. First of all, it's not true. You lie all the time on me, doggy. I mean, you tell the truth with most other things. But, boy, when it comes to me, you are a perpetual chronic fibbler.
Well, were you supposed to come to my little get-together?
No.
You were not.
I told you I would try. I said you and I would have dinner before the week is out, but I didn't know if I would be able to make it to the Mad Dog shindig. And you know I would have done everything that I could because Mrs. Mama Mad Dog was in the house. So I would make it. There's no way I would have just blew that off.
You turn off Jeannie, you're in big trouble.
There you go. I would never do such a thing. But what happened was the commissioner and the great Curtis Martin invited me out to dinner with them, and they came and grabbed me, and I didn't have my own ride. And not only that, not only did I not have my own ride.
You got 20 bodyguards and Cadillacs all over the place.
I have one bodyguard, number one. Number two, the ride was Goodell's. Number three, Ubers were pretty booked up and stuff like that. Traffic was a nightmare. It was cold and it was raining. And you know how some people get in certain cities, the minute the rain starts coming down, people don't know how to move around.
That's true.
So you got all of that going on. And I said, you know what? I've got the rest of the week. I got to go home to get up to be with this guy 4:30 in the morning. I'll make it up by meeting him and the missus and the beautiful daughter out to dinner.
I'll give you a break.
Thank you very much.
Do you ever get tired of your daily schedule? Which is, folks, if you don't know, what I'm talking about going to speak at campuses all over the country, you would be amazed. Now, listen, he's not flying Southwest. I get it. But you would be amazed at this man's schedule. Do you get tired of it?
No, I get tired of the bureaucracy. But I have to tell you that I'm really, really blessed. I do have a great job. And I tell people this all the time. You know, First Take's been number one for 12 years, and that's true. But you guys, because I handpicked every contributor to the show, and you guys have been phenomenal. I don't know if there's anybody ever in this business that could say they've picked 12 or 13 people to be on the show, and not a single individual has disappointed them. But for me on First Take, every single person has shown up, and they've delivered the goods, and it's made my life not just easier, but a boatload of fun. So it's hard for me to get up in the morning.
Especially when you're on the West Coast at 4:30 in the morning.
That's right. It's because I stay up late at night watching the games and stuff like that. But once I'm up and I show up in First Take, I always have a blast.
But how about the other part of your schedule, the NBA Countdown?
Yes.
You do all your radio show that you do, which that on
podcast show now.
You do big time there. The fact that you do all these speaking engagements. Saban has you down in Alabama. You go out to Iowa with Caitlin Clark, and then of course you got all your Bill Maher. You see him there, or whatever his name is.
Bill Maher,
there you
Howard
go.
Stern. Don't forget Howard Stern.
Who now you love.
Okay. I love
and
Stern.
Hannity that
that's
you
right.
love.
Well, that's my guy. Hannity and I go back nearly 20 years, so that's what that's about. Bill Maher, I talk politics and stuff like that, and I think he's center left, and I like that about him, and I like how objective he can be about both parties. So I'm appreciative of that. With my show, it's mine, and when you have ownership of something, man, it just hits you differently. Look at last when you had your own show, Mike and the Mad Dog, and y'all were together. You took out your staff. Or now you took out the channel. You know what I'm saying? It's a different obligation. It's a different onus that comes with it because it's yours. And so for me, when I look at my show, I built a television set. I came a couple of $1 million out of my own pocket.
He's got a production place out in Jersey.
That's right. I've got my own production company. I've been green lit on my docuseries that you're going to be a part of.
Oh, that's right. We haven't done that one. It hasn't aired yet.
I've been green lit on a drama series that I've created that I'm not at liberty to discuss at this particular moment in time that has nothing to to do with ESPN or Disney. So I have my aspirations.
Don't forget General Hospital.
General Hospital, obviously, I've had a recurring role on that. The speaking engagements, I'm just doing favors for folks from time to time. Nick Saban asked me to come down. Mark Shapiro, who's the president of WME, asked me to come down to Iowa with him with the Caitlin Clark thing. Of course, I get on a lecture circuit a few times a year, but I used to do about 50 to 60 speeches a year. Now I do about 5 to 10 when I have time.
So the speeches are not as much as I think.
That's right.
It's the appearances on other shows.
Yes.
Your radio, which you do, twice a week? You do those podcasts?
I do it 3 times a week. I do it
three times a week.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you do the 5 days a week here,
Yes.
plus NBA Countdown. That is basically your schedule?
Right, pretty much so. The NBA Countdown stuff, listen, the boss called and said it flat out. I need you. You're Mr. NBA. When you're on the air talking to NBA, people watch. That's one of the biggest reasons First Take is number one, because everybody's watching folks talk about football, but you're watching me talk about basketball. And when that happens, that resonates, and that's a big thing. And when the bosses come to you and they tell you that they need you, and they literally use those words, you got to answer the call. And so that's what it is. I love doing NBA Countdown. I might not love sticking around for 5 hours just to watch the game and come on at halftime, but that comes with it. And the payoff is the playoffs come. It's a very, very big deal. People like you and everybody's watching ESPN and ABC significantly, and my voice is prevalent at that particular moment in time. And so for me to uplift the brand and to do what I can to make sure that the company benefits from that, sometimes you got to do that sometimes. It's not all about just getting paid for every single job you do. It's about winning.
Sometimes you have to help the company. When they need you, you got to help them.
And I have no problem with that.
You got a relationship with a lot of famous people, and now you're pretty tight with these commissioners. Do you worry sometimes that maybe you want to make sure you stay in the middle?
Yes.
So when you have them on, you got to ask them what you got to ask them. And, let's face it, if I go out with Goodell and, he's nice and everything else and he's treating me, I can't go on the next day and kill him about Peacock.
Right, that's true. You say that.
You can't, and you don't. I do a lot of that.
Right.
You don't have to do as much of it. Do you worry that sometimes that you can cross the boundary from that?
I never worry about it. I never worry about it because I'm honest about the relationship up front. And what I mean by that is that we can cultivate a relationship as long as we have an understanding. I'm going to do my job. I work for the public. My job as a communicator, as a disseminator of information, as an opinion giver, as a perspective provider, is to make sure that when I go over the airwaves that I am authentically me, that I am consistently the Stephen A. that you've grown to know and love or hate, but can't help listening to and watching. I have to be that person. And so I'll give you a perfect example. This was absolutely true. Give you the perfect example. So there was a situation that the NFL had gotten themselves involved in when somebody was complaining about, I don't want to get into the specifics in the name, but somebody was talking about suing them. I picked up the phone with Goodell and I said, you can choose to come on if you want to still, but I'm going to ask you about this. He said, I told you I'd be there.
No, that was the time it came in.
And I'll be there. When I talked to Rob Manfred and some of the particulars about African Americans in the sport of baseball or whatever, I said, not only am I going to be there, I want my man Doggy.
Yeah, help me out that day.
And he was like, yes, no problem. And so Gary Bettman is the best. I love talking to him. And, I don't even know hockey, don't watch hockey.
So
but I went to a hockey game with him.
I know.
Exactly. And it's just like you and I. You will sit up there. Perfect example is you and I. We're buddies. I love you to death. And contrary to how this guy wants to act, Mad Dog Russo is in love with Stephen A. He loves the ground that I walk on. He loves the ground that I walk on. At no time does it stop you asking me the questions that need to be asked when it comes to my career, my life, my situation, no matter how uncomfortable the subject may be as it pertains to our business. If it's out there and it's in the news and your audience wants to know it, not only have you asked me, you never even gave me a heads up that you would ask me because you said, hey, you know the business. This is what comes with it. And I'm saying, everybody knows that, and as long as you make sure that's understood up front, it's no problem.
All right, I'll ask you one from that standpoint. I'll ask you one right now. Did you put yourself sort of in the dirt? Could you have avoided the Whitlock situation when you had the big fight with him?
I could have avoided it. I didn't want to. I didn't give a damn, and I still don't give a damn. I'm not backing up from one syllable I uttered, and I will reiterate what I say without saying his name because he is straight trash. And I don't ever want to have anything to do with him.
Okay.
But I will I will say this to you. He is an individual that has gone about the business of attacking me personally, attacking my contemporaries personally, attacking my friends personally. For 12 years, I never said a word.
He's gotten after you for a long time.
I never said a word.
I did not know that.
And he's gone after me for a long time because he wanted us. He was a failed experiment at ESPN. He wanted us to help him. Okay, none of us wanted to work with him. None of us wanted to be under the umbrella. Remember, he was the guy that was put over what is now called Anscape, but back then was called the Undefeated. Okay, and this guy could barely get anybody black that wanted to work for him because we all know what he is.
Okay.
And so what I did was
you can sleep at night.
I picked up. You're damn right. I sleep. Matter of fact, the only thing that's made me not sleep well is I wanted to say more. I wanted to say more.
Wow.
But here's the deal. I called. I text rather Bob Iger, Jimmy Pitaro, Burke Magnus, Dave Roberts, and in Pitaro, Burke Magnus, and Dave Roberts' case, I also emailed them. And I called my pastor. I called my sister Carmen. I called other colleagues. No one, and I mean no one wanted me to do it. None of them were okay with it. I said, I heard you, but this is my show.
So they all wanted you to pass.
They all wanted me to
pass.
pass. I said, I'm not passing. Now, after this, I'll pass. But I wanted to do something.
Get off your chest.
Get off my chest. And I wanted it to be a situation where whenever this man brought up my name again, the world knew exactly where I stood with him and why.
Now you got
And you let it go. I'll never say anything about him again like that. I'll never speak like that publicly again. That's not my style. But do I despise him? You damn right I do.
All right, one last one before you go, 'cause I know you're busy, and I appreciate you coming on here today. When you do this job, and, like in your case more than me, because I'm a little goofier than you are, so it's a little different, you can come across, you can be a little polarizing.
Yes, sir.
Does that bother you at all or no?
No.
Do you want people to love you?
No, I don't care. I want my family to love me. I want my friends to love me. I want people that I love to love me. Here's what I want from my audience. Here's from I went from the Joe Public, Susie Public out there. I am a fair-minded person. I truly believe I'm a decent human being whose heart's in the right place, that never goes about the business of intentionally trying to hurt anybody. I'm hired to do a job, to give you my honest perspective and take on whatever subject matter I choose to broach inside primarily of sports, but also outside the world of sports. That is what I do, okay? If what comes with it is you deciding you don't want to talk to me, you don't want to be an adult, you don't want to have a constructive and productive conversation, and you instead try to label me as polarizing and provoke hatred and all of that stuff, you go right ahead. We don't get in this business. Remember, journalism background, stuff like that. We don't get in this business to make friends. We don't get in it to make enemies either. We get in it to do a job. And at the end of the day, the audience has to look at you, and the audience has to say, that's Stephen A. That's who I know him to be. That's Mad Dog Russo. That's who I know him to be. Am I consistently the individual that I have marketed myself to be? That answer's yes.
Yeah, sure does.
And it ain't changing, and that's the way it goes.
I know you're busy. You're the best.
Love
Keep
you,
it
bro.
going. See
All right,
you
buddy.
soon.
Take care, buddy.